We're trampling on the Constitution? What are you talking about?
Every single time he says some outlandish, outrageous, some illegal or unconstitutional shit, people are like, "Oh, Trump just says things." This new law authorizes untrained police officers untrained police officers to engage in immigration enforcement.
My son said to me, "You're not actually arguing with the person you're arguing with. You're sharing information for the people who are reading the discussion." A Hispanic person walking down the street, minding your own business, who happens to be here legally or perhaps were even born here, and you could be arrested just because they say they suspect you. I would also just like to point out, though, that one of the characteristics of fascism is xenophobia. If you were elected to pull every firstborn child out in the middle of the street and shoot him in the head, that doesn't mean
That doesn't mean you get to do.
the hopefulness is that we're seeing so much pushback, so many court decisions, millions of people are protesting.
It's okay because it humanizes us whenever we talk about normal stuff. We just decided that if we were going to have these conversations, why not record them?
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Hopeful Resistance. My name is Sarah. This is my son, Aaron.
Hi.
Chatty, isn't he? Every week, we just come back with the intention of helping you navigate with a hopeful mindset, some of the batshit craziness that's going on in the United States in terms of the current administration, who shall not be named, and some of the things that we do.
I just call him Donnie.
I'm sure he loves that, right? But some of the things that we try to do is we try to review some of the crazy stuff that happens during the week and frame it in how can you be hopeful. And also, we talk a lot because we're quite passionate about action items. We believe that one of the outstanding features of and defining features of being hopeful is to take action. And so we do talk about what you can do. And Aaron's going to be so proud of me. I compiled a list of this week's wins.
Yay.
Yay.
I mean, yeah, I'll have to put those together and make sure we get it into the
Google
links
Docs.
folder.
That's
Yeah.
right. And so Aaron always gets the luxury or the pressure, depending on how you look at it, of deciding what we talk about each week. So you may see us Googling stuff or doing some kind of research or pulling up information because, we find out as we go sometimes. But Aaron, what are we talking about?
There's going to be I think several things we're going to talk about, but I want it to be, it's going to be all encompassing
There's
because it's,
so
yeah,
many
many things.
things.
I feel like it's going to be kind of all encompassing about what's going on with immigration. I know that we've already done an episode where we talked about the Fifth Amendment and we talked about, how they're deporting people with no due process, a violation of the Fifth Amendment. An administration has gone like a step further, and now we're kind of stepping into, I think it's Fourth Amendment territory.
Okay.
So
What?
yeah,
This is shocking madness. We're trampling on the Constitution? What are you talking about?
I know. Well, and if you and like they love to say, he's just joking. I mean, you taking him seriously? You think no, all Trump wants to do is own the libs, okay?
Just on the list. Well, and here's the irony of the blowing things off to joking. Back in 2015, he joked about running for president. And then he joked, then he joked about other things that he ultimately ended up doing.
Right.
The typical, and I want to remind anybody who's new to the shows, is I'm a retired behaviorist, and part of what I do is look at patterns and make observations about people's behavior. This is a typical narcissist thing. I will push the boundaries with you by saying, I'm going to lock you out of the house. And you're like, she's just joking.
He's just joking.
Yeah, and then you come home and the locks have been changed, and you think I was joking, and I say, well, I told you I was going to do it.
Well, and it's also, and I know we're gonna go like like more into the topic, but it's also the thing like how many times we talked about this last. How many times are we gonna say he's joking and then he's gonna do the thing and then we realize he wasn't? Like how many?
Well,
It was always that.
it
Yeah,
was always that.
yeah, it's been like that forever. It's every single time he says some outlandish, outrageous, some illegal or unconstitutional shit, people are like, "Oh, Trump he just says things. It doesn't mean he's gonna do it." And then he goes and fucking does it, and we're like, and then they're like shocked Pikachu face, where they just don't say anything. It's
Well,
like,
here's
no,
what
so
happens
either you knew,
in typical narcissistic response, like someone who's engaged in a relationship with a narcissist, they're either going to excuse it, he didn't mean it, he was joking,
yeah,
going to accept it like, well, he's got a good reason, it's temporary pain for long-term gain or whatever.
yeah, some,
Or they're going to ignore it,
it's,
and ignoring seems to be what we're running into. You and
yeah,
I having more conversations. You would be so proud of me for having conversations this week. And
good,
I actually had someone private message me and saying, how are you saying so calm having this conversation? It was a complete MAGA Trump supporter person. I imagined him frothing at the mouth while we were having our conversation.
yeah.
Wait,
This
wait.
week
Here
go
was
ahead.
my
Oh,
response. That
sorry, go ahead.
my son said to me, "You're not actually arguing with the person you're arguing with. You're sharing information for the people who are reading the discussion."
Right.
And so he had read the discussion. I mean, the fact that he agreed with me is irrelevant. He had read the discussion. And if he hadn't agreed with me, he may have still learned something. So look at you,
Right.
influence, you teaching your mom new.
I try. I definitely you did better than me this week. I was been so busy this week with just so many other things that I have not hopped into any of my social media spheres to
As I recall, we both had some things going on this last week.
yeah.
Let's talk about immigration. And did you have any any specific thing about immigration?
So one thing that that I wanted to talk about because I know there's something else that we're going to talk about with because there's two okay, let's break it down. There's two topics. There's the federal court case that coming out of Texas
Oh, about the
where Texas
Venezuelan.
yes, where the Texas Senate it's the what was it bill SB 4, which is basically allowing law enforcement in Texas to arrest people um, that they suspect cross the border illegally.
Right.
Again, the key word there is that they're only suspects
So
of
you could
illegal.
be a Hispanic person walking down the street, minding your own business, who happens to be here legally, or perhaps are even born here, and you could be arrested just because they say they suspect you.
Yes. And then Texas ACLU came out because they filed a lawsuit. There was a federal judge that stepped in and it was basically like, nope, you're not doing that.
You can do. And I would
Yeah.
like to, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think I am because I've been following this not quite as close as you have, of course, but there was a Trump appointed judge who did um, a permanent ban or restriction on this and created a class action lawsuit. Is this the same thing you're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know if those two are the same things because I know about the Trump appointed judge that basically said, "Hey, you can't use the Alien Enemies
Alien Enemies
Act
Act. But SB
to
14
deport
is
these
then
people."
something different.
Yes, because I
Okay, well,
believe
let's
that yeah,
jump
go
in
ahead.
and let's explain it to the listeners,
Yeah,
viewers,
okay.
subscribers,
Yeah.
whatever they are.
So,
Whoever you
yeah,
are, we
if
see
you're
you.
here, if you're here, please subscribe and then you'll be a subscriber and if you don't subscribe, you're just a listener, which both is
I
fine.
like it. I like it.
So let me see if I can find. Okay, so the SB Senate bill, I guess this was actually passed back in November 2023. Uh,
So why are we getting excited about it now?
I think because okay, so a let me just back up because I want to pull this up specifically. I'm just looking at articles that they passed that ACLU put out, and because they're also trying to make sure that people are informed on how the law affects you.
Okay.
Um, And I think that's probably why too, because it was probably passed back
Is it
uh,
SB
in
14 or SB 4?
SB 4, one
Oh,
four,
sorry, I wrote
or
it
sorry,
SB.
4. Maybe did I
No,
say
you said it
14?
right. Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, okay.
I
Yeah,
wrote it
it is.
right. I Googled it wrong.
Yeah. So this is from the Texas ACLU website. And so I'm just going to read this. It's pretty brief. It's a very short paragraph. It just says this new law authorizes untrained police officers untrained police officers to engage in immigration enforcement. It creates a new unconstitutional process in which the police in Texas are permitted to detain people suspected of being non-U.S. citizens and entering or attempting to enter Texas from Mexico or another country without authorization. Police may charge individuals with a new state crime of illegal entry to Texas, punishable by up to 6 months in jail. Police may charge individuals previously denied admission to the U.S. or deported from the U.S., including those unlawfully deported by Texas with illegal re-entry to Texas, and it's punishable by up to 10 to 20 years in prison. Is what right there at the end.
So there are so many things to unpack here.
Yes.
So I would like to just start off with, and you can take this where you think it needs to go, but these are some points that I just think we maybe haven't done a good enough job of making. And one of them is, I would like to remind anybody who is perhaps on the fence about this, Democrats, liberals, leftists, I believe, I don't know what we are anymore, non-MAGA, non-MAGA, non-Trump.
Yeah, I mean you've got some Reagan Republicans that have
I
crossed over
know,
the aisle like whatever's going on over there, I want no fucking part of it.
anti-fascists, anti-fascists. I am not against deportation. I absolutely am not. I am, however, against lack of due process to achieve that goal. I would also like to point out to people that statistics from extremely neutral sources uh, prove that immigrants commit less crime than U.S. citizens. I would also like
Yeah.
to point out that undocumented immigrants pay, I believe it's with a B, billions of dollars into the tax system through Social Security tax that they can never claim, right? And other income tax, because if you'll be reminded, the the current administration is using the IRS to track down undocumented immigrants. So, and to what you just read, that we're talking a misdemeanor. Entering this country illegally is a misdemeanor.
Yeah. And the re-entry 10 to 20 years for re-entry is pretty steep.
I know, go to 6 months.
Um,
So what are your thoughts on this? I mean, you are in the southwest area of the country. What are you thinking about this?
well, I mean, I think I've said it in previous episodes. I live in Texas.
Yeah,
I'm
I didn't want to
I'm
doubt
I'm
you if you didn't.
I'm not gonna say what city I live in.
Okay.
But I do live in Texas. I guess the general region is I live in, I think we live in, is it North Texas technically?
Technically,
Anyway, the problem that I have with laws like this is that at least in my mind, and I'm not a lawyer, let's be very clear.
yeah.
I try to
But we
read the
did sleep
law.
at a Holiday Inn one night.
Yes. That's an old reference.
That is an old. Oh, you got it. So what does that say about you?
Yeah, I know. But the reason why I want to stick with that I'm not a lawyer is because if someone is a lawyer and I'm wrong about this, you are free to
Oh my
comment and tell
goodness.
me I'm wrong,
We
and
like
I
that.
will take that to heart. I just try to understand the law, right?
Yes.
And how it could affect me or people that are close to me or people that I don't even know. I just have the ability to empathize with what it would be like if it was me.
Yes.
So the problem that I have with things like this is because it doesn't that it's just suspected of being non-US citizens. Um, One, I don't like that it basically that it says that it breaks down to non-US citizens because there are people in this country that are here legally that are not citizens. Um,
Right.
and whether those people are asylum seekers, which I know how much MAGA hates that people can seek asylum
I
here,
hate that.
but whether they're asylum seekers or whether there's someone who is here on a visa, a work visa, or a green card, there are a number of circumstances in which people are in this country but not U.S. citizens. And the so don't like that specific distinction, and then I don't like that it almost feels like it could really cross into like the stop and frisk stuff, which I'm always been uncomfortable with, because it's very police statey to me. Um, so
Well,
there's that part of it.
I know one of the things that I really think is important to mention when we talk about things like this is that I talk about it. I know a lot, constitutionality and rule of law, but this seems to bypass some of an individual's rights just because, particularly, I think it's important an untrained person. Now, I will
Right.
say some of the shit I've been reading about ICE officers is not impressive.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of training, training in how to terrorize people. But I would also just like to point out, though, that one of the characteristics of fascism is xenophobia, really. It's this nationalism that's, if you aren't like me, I mean, we may reference the guy with the funny mustache sometimes, but I think that when we talk about, I suspect you of being a non-Christian. Well, how can I look at you and know that?
Yeah.
Or I suspect you of being a Jew because of how you look. How can you
Right.
look at somebody and suspect them of being a non-US citizen? This
Yeah.
just screams of profiling.
100%. And that's the other part is there are plenty of I would need to look up the statistics specifically, but I remember reading at some point that it is more common for people to come here legally, like from Europe or from the Middle East even, where people will come here legally and then overstay their visas. And those are actually the most common type
The most
of
common
illegal
type, you
immigrant.
bet. And I would
Um,
also point out that in the research I did trying to educate people prior to the election, that there's 300 and say for rounding purposes, there's 370 million people in the United States.
right.
Of those, 11 million are suspected of being undocumented.
And even undocumented, as I understand it, doesn't qualify being here illegally, right?
How does
Because
that work?
well, I'm because my again, I think it's because of those are like the people that have to go in and check in with
Yeah,
immigration
yeah.
regularly.
So we're
Like
talking
they're
about like 0.02%.
yeah,
I mean, the number of people, this is a platform of hate because we're literally talking about crazy amounts of money being spent on the activity of deporting people, crazy amounts of money being spent with all the legal cases over 0.2% of the population.
yes. And I did misspeak. So asylum seekers are not considered undocumented because they have the paperwork that shows that they're here seeking asylum. So
It's
I
okay
just
though,
wanted
but
to
I mean,
check on
still,
that.
we're still talking about, 0.02%.
Yeah.
If
I
I'm
mean,
at math, so if I'm wrong, somebody help me here.
yeah, well, it's regardless, 11 you can just do the even if even if it's a little more, 11 million people out of 370 million um ain't
No, it's
that much.
0.02. Did it twice.
It ain't that
Even if
it
it's
ain't that
two
much.
percent of the population, but it's
Yeah.
zero. No, it's 0.0297. So it's technically 0.03 of the population. So let's put this into perspective, though. Why? I don't have answers. We are a country divided over 0.03% of the population.
Well, and that's because the administration has drummed up how big of a problem this is because they've pointed to this as um, to quote the current president just this week
Oh,
during one of his Meet the Press interviews because he and again
I
quote
saw
these
that
people
clip.
are murderers, these people are
Murderers
drug
and
dealers
rapists.
and
Yeah.
rapists.
And
They're some of the worst people in the world.
they come from mental asylums.
Yeah, I mean and so yes, you do have I I would like to put it like this. You have people that are afraid, but their fear is unjustified, but only because it's fear that's driven out of lies and ignorance. Like he's lying. That's what he does. That's all he does. He just
And I
lies all the
will say,
time.
I have in the conversations that I've had with people, I provide a stupid number of sources.
Right. Well,
like,
and
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 so
we've seen recently they don't care.
well, and what Aaron's referring to is he and I have both had conversations with people where we provide sources that are as unbiased as we can possibly locate. So
Yes.
nobody's going to say fake news. And one person responded, I don't care.
What
And
did
then
they say? I think the specific quote from you was, "You can send me the internet's worth of links."
you can send me every link on the internet.
Yes.
Well, still, you
And I will
will
still
get
not change
me,
my mind. I
you will
mean,
not get me to budge one iota. That's
yeah, there's like I don't even know. Okay, I
Yeah,
guess
but I will say, for anybody who's made it this far, here's the hopeful part. Uh, the courts have slammed back on this
yes.
over and over. As a matter of fact, and this will take us down a second little rabbit hole I think you were wanting to talk about today. As a matter of fact, uh, there was an interview done this week where Trump was specifically asked about his adherence to the Constitution, and his remark was, I keep trying to deport these people. I was elected on the
Yeah.
plan that I was going to deport these people, and I'm quoting, but the courts keep stopping me.
Yes. This is what I was elected for, and the courts keep stopping me. He
And
said, yeah, sorry.
no, no, but
It
the concept being, okay, if you were elected to pull every firstborn child out in the middle of the street and shoot him in the head, that doesn't mean
that doesn't mean you get to do
you get
that.
to do it there.
And well, and even more so, the president swears an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, just like the majority of offices within the executive branch and our military. And then when asked if he should uphold the Constitution whenever I think it started with whenever we're discussing the Fifth Amendment, he just replies, "Well, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer."
Actually,
Um,
he was being interviewed NBC Meet the Press, and she was
yes,
asking him about a few things, and
and she doubled down on the question.
he doubled down. She was pressing him, and he actually came back with, I don't know. But then a
Yes.
previous interview, which I think was so freaking hilarious, uh, the interviewer referred to the Constitution of the United States on the wall and asked him, what he thought about it. He says, "Oh, it's a document of love and unity." And we're like, it's literally fucking divorce papers.
Yeah.
The Constitution, or I'm sorry, the Declaration of Independence. They asked him what he
Oh,
thought
okay.
of the Declaration
I,
of
I
Independence.
was I was sitting here like the Constitution divorce. Yeah, I guess because it
No,
includes
no,
articles in
it was the Declaration of Independence, and
Yeah.
asked him what he thought about it, and he said, "Oh, it's a document of peace and love, love and
Oh,
unity, love and unity." So I think
yeah.
the point that we're trying to make with our glib comments is that uh, we have someone in this administrative capacity governing the United States whose major job is to support the Constitution, who doesn't know what it is. And um, I sent you a document about why that mattered, but have we covered this immigration thing? You sent me a memorandum. Did you want to talk about that memorandum
Oh
that
yeah, and that would be the other half of things that we're talking about. And I just want to make sure that we kind of leave the last topic off at like a good, I guess, a good spot.
Sure.
A judge blocked the order.
Blocked?
So
Yeah,
so
SB4 is blocked. Yeah.
very specifically, even the ACLU talked about this, and their thing is that the SB4 is not in effect. So the courts blocked it, and I think I remember you were talking about this, that the lawsuit that they used to block that has actually was a class action that's basically covers the whole country at this point.
Yes, and I
Um,
think that's really important. Again, I want to remind people, if you only watch Fox News and if you also believe every single thing that comes out of the press secretary's mouth, you might be misinformed. That the judge in South Texas was appointed by Trump and has, tried, I think, in this case to make some pretty unbiased observations. But one of the things that he said is that the administration stretched miserably to try and invoke this act. That the
Right.
use of that the use of this act
Ooh,
and
go ahead.
again that saying that immigrants are invaders, which is basically what the act says,
Yeah.
that immigrants are invaders.
Yes.
That was interesting because that guy who said that I could quote the whole internet or I could link the whole internet and he still wasn't going to change his mind.
Oh, I have a good rebuttal for that guy, by the way.
But
Another one, but
he supports that because he said I consider them invaders, and I thought that's a weird comment to make. I hadn't made the connection between the Alien Enemies Act.
what?
But this
Go ahead.
judge, like you say, to end on a happy note or high note or hopeful note, this
Hopeful
judge
note.
not only blocked as a permanent injunction, he also created this class action situation that applies across the country.
Right.
That this can't happen anywhere until another. I mean, Trump can appeal it all he wants, but he has been told by a federal judge no.
Well, yeah, and he's trying to push the Supreme Court. That's a whole other topic of things where he's trying to push the Supreme Court to reauthorize it and blah blah blah. One thing I did want to say that I it popped into my head. I think it was yesterday. So did your conversation with that individual, didn't they say like I don't care about laws that were written in the 1970s or something like that?
Yes, I
And
mean,
and then we were
completely on. Just didn't even realize that the
right.
the
There we
amendment
go.
the amendments to the Constitution were put forth by one of the authors of the Constitution back in
Right. And
1791. I mean, come on.
right. Well, and that's the other thing that I find so interesting too, but is that he is like, oh, I don't care about these, I don't care about
Oh,
these old
70 years
laws.
ago. That's what he said. Some judge
Right.
decision 70 years ago.
Yeah, but what I find interesting is that he's against what a judge did 70 years ago, but is in support of an act that was written back in 1798. So we're not okay with 70 years ago, but we are okay with
I need to
the
write.
founding of the country.
And again, here's the other thing. What I am discovering, and maybe I will say, maybe the MAGA slash Trumpers are as disgusted with trying to communicate with us as we are with them. I literally am at
Probably.
the point right now where I'm like, if you support Trump, I literally do not have a thing. If you want to engage with me, I will absolutely have a respectful conversation with you. But I don't even understand at this point how anybody can still support him other than they all watch Fox News.
I imagine that that's some part of it, and that there is another part of it where, um, it's like the head in the sand or their fingers in their ears. Um,
But how
that
much
that
hate?
that
Let's go on to a little behavioral thing right here because
yeah.
it does track in terms of how we resist. Because I had this struggle this week. How much hate do they have to have in their heart? And I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm not talking about anything religious. I'm literally just talking about this emotion of hate. You hate the gays. You hate the immigrants. You hate the people that you say are godless. I mean, how that's gotta like eat you up after a while. I mean, how can you sustain that
Yeah,
level
well, I
of
mean,
hate for so
if
long?
we'd have to get in like huge I guess I would call them like macro level like philosophy and theology and stuff. But I think what it really comes this is what I think. I think it really comes down to maybe a bit of nostalgia. People remember or people look at what life was like in the 50s and
White
they
men
want to
do that. The women
yeah.
are like going,
Yeah.
no, we were
Yeah, I don't want anything to, so I
told.
think that's one part of it is there's a bit of nostalgia. I think the other thing, and this is just my opinion, is that as much as religion teaches, love thy neighbor and these other things, it also teaches you to like kind of be ashamed and or embarrassed, and that drives a lot of fear in your life, and then thus it makes you more fearful, uh,
That track.
whenever you're dealing with, like
Well, and judgy, I
other
do think that
situations.
a lot
So,
of
and judgy is a really big one.
religion.
I think some of the worst gossips I ever met were religious people.
Well, and I think we need to remember that there's a huge difference. I am all in favor of spirituality. If you are a spiritual Christian, I'm all for that. If you are religious, like you have to follow these rules and laws and blah, blah, blah. You worship the rules and laws and not the love thing. Uh,
Right.
but anyway, that is a
Yeah,
whole
like I said, we have to go down like a whole other
other
path to really, I
discussion,
think,
isn't it?
yeah. Well, and because there's also the cultural aspect of it. There's just, and then yeah, and then of course, yeah, if where you're consuming your information from, if you're consuming information that's driving hate and fear, I mean,
Okay, so
That's something we've talked about before. We have to be mindful of not becoming that
that's
in
right.
our
Because I'm trying to have some mindful. I really try to stay away from name calling
right.
and posting memes that are derogatory or um I mean I will say the Chinese are doing some great trolling right now.
The fucking
If you're watching this and you don't know what I'm
Chinese.
talking about, just Google Chinese trolling of
Yeah,
wow.
these guys
Um
go crazy. The mockery.
I mean, and their
Um,
AI is off the charts. So anyway,
yeah.
all right. So we're talking about immigration,
Yeah.
specifically talking about SB4. And I think the other thing that you wanted to talk about
Yes.
mentioned is the Alien Enemies Act, that memo.
Yes. So I think it was report. I think it was anyway. It was last week, like Sunday or Monday last week. There was a DOJ memo that came down that basically directed law enforcement
Oh, is this the
nationwide.
ones where it said you can go in their homes without a
Yeah,
warrant?
you just yeah. So the yeah. So the directs. This is
Oh,
from
that woman. Oh, sorry.
yes. Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And this is, as far as I know, connected to that.
Okay. I'm
The
gonna Google the
directive,
woman while you talk.
yeah, the directive provides, it basically allows frontline officers apprehending suspected I think Tren de Aragua. Did I say that right?
I,
That's the Venezuelan gang that they're like
oh, okay.
that they're
We'll
pumping
just
up
call
as
it
like the big threat.
we'll call it
Um,
the Venezuelan gang.
yeah. But so members of that game that is suggesting that officers are able to obtain a warrant of apprehension um, and removal as much as practicable. And these are administrative warrants that do not need to be signed by judges. They can actually just be signed by immigration officer supervisors.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's fun. And then, so the other part of it is that the memo is said to grant authority for police to enter a suspected, I'm going to quote this in quotes because it's in quotes, suspected alien enemy's resident
oh,
if circumstances render it impractical to first obtain a warrant. So, what the memo
yeah,
essentially
because it's
allows,
impractical because I can't fucking justify it.
yes, but this is okay. Do you remember?
Okay, let's pause for a minute. So
Oh,
many
many.
things.
Things. Do
Okay.
you remember, and yeah, I'm sure you do, like in 2000, from 2008 to 2016, Obama was president.
Yep.
And there was like a thing, I remember this, like reading about it, where they were doing some kind of operation here in Texas, and
Yes, and
the
the guys
Republicans,
behind him, he was doing some
yes.
speech, and some guys behind him started yelling, and he stopped the whole thing and started talking to him.
Well, no,
Oh,
not maybe. Well, the one I'm talking about is there was some military training going on in Texas, and the Republicans lost their mind because they're like, "This is it, Obama's taking over." And then, like, they sent the
oh,
Texas National. You might, if you don't remember, it's okay. But I just find it interesting that that was the Republicans' meltdown. And again, this was what I guess almost at this point over 20 years ago, but it was still like almost 20 years ago. But it's still like okay, so we were freaking out about this military thing, but now there's literally memos coming out saying, hey, they can just walk into your house if they suspect that you have a quote unquote alien enemy
you
with
know
no
what's
warrant.
interesting to me?
And none
And,
of these two gay guys give a shit about this memo.
right? You know what's interesting to me though? I'm going to repeat back what I think you said was that during Obama's 8 years, he was running operations in Texas.
Yeah, they were doing some, it was, I don't remember the specific,
National
I have
Guard.
to go look it up. But no, so the Texas actually got their National Guard to go and stand and like post response thinking that Obama was using the military to try and take over Texas. Like I'm not even, and I'm not.
Okay, I must have just blanked that out for sheer
Yeah,
stupidity.
it's and
So let me tell you what I
we
was.
could pull up details. I
Let me
just think
tell you,
about like how that was the moment. Like nothing happened from it, and
no,
then
I mean it
now
must
there's a
have
memo of that basically being like, yeah, go for it. Just enter people's homes if they have illegal aliens in their
well,
homes or
okay.
alien enemies.
There are so many things right here. So first of all, I absolutely do not remember that. And if I do, it was just like a blip because I was probably like, well, of course he's not. That's just stupid, right? And then Texas governorship has been stupid for so long. They run on, and I want to just comment on Texas governors. Texas has had Republican governors for decades.
Yes.
And they run on, we're going to fix what the Democrats have broken.
Yes.
I just want, and people still keep voting for that. Okay.
Yes. It
What
was 2012.
okay. All right. Obama, 2012 Texas takeover.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to derail us so hard, but
Okay. Yeah. But here's what I thought. I did jump the gun and I was so far off of what I thought you were going to say. And it's probably because I just saw a video a couple weeks
yeah.
ago. The conversation has been that, and I've
I'll
seen
post
it.
a link about it. People want to see it, by the way. I'll
Okay.
send it to you and we can, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
I like that. So one of the things I go on Facebook on our Hopeful Resistance, under our Hopeful Resistance name, and I will go to the red sites. I call it the red sites, and they're MAGA or Trumpers. And one of the things they keep saying is that Obama deported more people than Trump has. And the comment that I want to make is he was president for 8 years. Of course he did.
Well,
But here's,
go
if
ahead.
is that wrong?
No, that is absolutely true.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Because they're saying he deported 3 million people. And I'm like, okay. So that's like 1/3 of the average number of illegal or undocumented immigrants. But here's my point. There's a video, and if I can find it, I'll also share it on the page. There was a rally, and there were some people who started heckling the president about, stop deportation, stop deportation. And he stopped, and he would not let security eject them. And he said, no, they have a right to do this, but I want to appeal to them for a moment. And he said to them, look, you oppose, how I'm handling this. I'm following the laws. I'm following the rules that our country currently has on how to handle this. If you don't like how I'm doing it, then let's see what laws you don't like, and I'll help you learn how to change the law so that things don't happen this way. If you don't like it, don't stand and yell at me. I can't change the law.
Right.
I can only follow the law. And I just thought,
I
oh my God,
wow.
that if I could get
This
that message across to every single, you know,
there's so many every time. So there's a lot for me to unpack here because I have this always comes up. I was gonna curse again. This always comes up in these debates. Oh, Obama deported more people. Okay, well, two things. One, Obama deported more people legally. He didn't just round people up, throw them on planes, and send them to a prison camp
he
in El
didn't ship them
Salvador.
out in the dead of night to a country
Two,
paying.
oh, two, Obama's not the fucking president. So okay, he's not the current president. And if Obama was doing the same shit that Trump's doing, I'd be just as mad at him.
Right? And I get so tired of saying, well, Biden did this and Biden did that. And I'm like, okay, and you were mad about it. So are you saying it's not okay
Yeah,
for this guy to do these
it's
things?
whataboutism. What about?
What?
Okay, well, um, but yes, the memo, and I have links to the memo. I have links
Okay, so
to
we've got to make sure I've got to write down all these links. Okay,
yeah. I want to make sure we get all the information out there.
so
Whenever I first read about this, I called my representative. I
I
think it was like
remember.
6 o'clock at night, and like I try not to like yell at them when I call them. I try to be like very
Yeah, because you want them to
I
pay
let, let
attention to what you
yeah,
say.
I let them know that I'm pissed off, but I'm trying to be like super like I'm not mad at you as an aide. I am very mad at the congressman. And I'm very mad in general at all Republicans, but I want you to know that I'm not mad at you. But no, this time I called and I actually think I got voicemail and I gave it, whenever you have to give them your address and everything else. And I just blew up. Like, are you gonna fucking do something about this?
Now,
Because
what were you yelling about at that? Which of the
oh,
many things that we get upset?
that was specifically this memo that is authorizing law enforcement agents to enter homes
Oh,
without warrants. Okay, because I already call all the time about the deportations. I have no you call it I call every day because I just
do you
because
use
it's
five
cathartic. It makes
calls?
me
It is.
yes,
Do you use 5 calls to make the?
absolutely.
Okay, so what I would love to do next week, I would love to have you make a call on the show
Sure.
to demonstrate to people how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to spring that on you
No,
tonight.
it's all right.
Okay. So you left a message. Well, let's be honest. I will say this, I will repeat this until people can say, well, Sarah used to always say, we either follow the Constitution and the rule of law, or by not or by supporting this administration, you are supporting fascism and dictatorship. There is no middle ground here. We
Right.
follow the Constitution and the rule of law. This memo, it's a memo. It's like these executive orders. They're not law. The fact that someone
Yes.
writes a really nice memo and they believe, I will say, it
Well,
is
this
purposes of this memorandum, and they're doing it under the Alien Enemy Act, but
yes.
they have been told by the courts no more. I think even the Supreme Court said, yeah, no, no,
Yeah, we're not changing that.
no.
Now I will say, in the current state of things, we've only heard of one instance where this brief was used.
And is that the
There,
one in Oklahoma where they invaded?
yes,
So
yes,
here's the question.
and it was the wrong people.
If you're going to use this, let's just take a minute. You're trying to convince people that you've invoked the Alien Enemies Act correctly. You're trying to convince people that you are a competent agency, that you are doing the right thing, that you're getting rid of those damn illegals,
Hmm.
and you invade a woman's home who is a US citizen, and you bring her out in the middle of the night, her and her children, they're half naked. You take their phone, you take all their money,
For hours, for hours.
and they're screaming the whole time, I'm a US citizen, I can prove it. But they're no. So I'm just like, how I use a phrase a lot that it doesn't get better than the first date, meaning at the beginning of a process, or what you see in public is the best. So my only comment is, what the hell is going on behind closed doors? What's going on behind the scenes? If this is what's happening in the public eye that's making the news.
Well, and this is also the problem with um what is it? I always forget the saying, but where it's just, the the smart is slow, but dumb
Oh,
is fast. Stupid.
fast is slow, slow is fast.
Yeah,
That when you do things, we used to use this phrase for a company I own, Plaid for Women, that fast is slow, slow is fast. So if you do things,
yes. No, I think
if you do things fast, you're going to end up being slow because you make so many mistakes and have to go back and fix.
yes.
But if you do things slowly and deliberately, then you'll actually accelerate faster because you're not having to fix the mistakes.
We have a similar saying. That's not what I was talking about. We have a similar saying in the military that's fast is slow or slow is smooth and smooth is fast, I think is what we say.
Okay.
Which is it's the same thing. What I was talking about is the one that that we talked about like way early on about that like
Fast
um
beats smart.
that's what it is. Fast,
Yeah. Fast beats smart. Well,
yeah,
and
we're
if let's be clear, we say this a lot. Fast beats smart because if I want to, okay, if I want to destroy your business, I just come in and do all this crazy stuff. And
mhm,
I'm going to destroy your business faster than if I am deliberate and try and, you know,
right.
buy your land or undermine your pricing or whatever. If I just come in and take as we say, take a chainsaw and bring a bull and you know
Yeah.
destruction. And I think we need to speak to, okay, if there are people out there watching this who believe that the whole thing needs to be burned down and rebuilt, okay, but burning it down hurts people. There are processes by which you can tear tear up you can tear up the Constitution and make a new one. But the laws have to be in the place while you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, and what I want, what I'm trying to get back to, I guess, is if they did this correctly and they went through the process as it is, because they are more adamant about deporting people, it would be possible that Trump could deport more people than Obama. Because as
Oh,
we know, Trump hates Obama and wants to
okay.
beat him at
If that's the
everything
point
all
you're
the time.
if that's a point you're trying to make 100,000%, if they would, if the current administration would follow the laws as written, they could be deporting people every single day. But what they
Right.
want is flash.
They
They
want, yes. And fear, because they want to show the people that elected him with all the other fuck ups. He wants to have something that he's doing that's right, because the economy's not looking hot right now,
As a
because
matter of
there's
fact,
all
I was doing as a rebuttal to somebody who was talking about, even though I hated Trump, that I was going to benefit from his actions over the next 4 years. And I'm like, what particular benefits do you have in mind? I mean, JP Morgan Chase just confirmed that their estimate is 60% chance of a recession by the end of 2025. More than 2,000 children have died of measles this year,
oh god,
as
don't even get me
opposed,
started on Ancient
as
Agents.
opposed to last year where there were 204.
Right.
I mean, if you're talking to me about the benefits, there are none at this point.
It's
The
gonna get worse before it gets better. All roads lead to Rome.
Here's the benefit. If you really want, let's be. I'm going to be as objective as I think anyone could expect me to be at this point. I will tell you what he has done an excellent job of. He has done the most incredible job of harnessing hate and fear in a certain subset of the population than I ever thought would be possible in my lifetime.
Right. I
Oh, hang on. I need to let a dog out. Hold on.
okay.
So if you would have told me that uh any person in the United States could have harnessed that, and I want to be honest, I have learned, there's not 75 million people who embrace his theology. There
Yeah.
may
Well,
have been.
and with some of the political shifts we've seen in other countries like Canada
Oh my gosh,
and
in
Australia.
Australia. Well, and let's just talk about local elections. Mansfield, Texas was on the radar. I was surprised on Threads. Mansfield, Texas was on the radar for
Yeah, because we just had the trustees
the school
election.
districts, and they ousted every single conservative lost their seat, even though some of them were funded by Patriot Mobile. I mean, to the tune of, like, this is a school board seat in a small town, $3,000 to that particular campaign. And I just think, okay, the messaging should be pretty clear at this point. You guys have shit in your post toasties with all the hate and fear. People are tired
Oh,
of it. It's
oh,
not
but
sustainable.
it's all paid protesters at those town halls. You, you know what I mean? And I don't know if you've seen my Threads post about like I always make jokes when I see those. They're paid protesters. I'm like, bro, where do I get
I know,
paid?
where do I, well,
Who do I, somebody got a number
my
of the
joke, and
Soros guy that's paying people?
well, and what's so funny is every accusation is a confession.
Always.
I have seen several pictures of Craigslist uh, ads for for certain the current administration's rallies.
Yeah.
But I would also say, if you do the math with some of the comments that have been made about paid protesters, that each person who was protesting was being paid $5 million by Soros. That would have been like $5 billion paid out to pay.
And he's only worth like 6 billion if you didn't know that.
Right,
I
right.
mean,
So,
it's nonsensical.
all right. So let me review something real
I'm
quick.
sorry.
We're gonna put a link to the 2012,
Oh, it's 2015. I'm sorry. The 2012,
2015.
yeah, the 2012 thing was something. It
Okay.
was
So the
Texas
link,
National Guard training with the military. article and the other one.
So the link
Right.
that you sent me is to when the Texas governor deployed the National Guard in response
Yes.
to a perceived threat
Yeah.
about Obama taking over the country.
So I don't like to use nicknames very much, but he just signed the vouchers bill, so I am particularly angry at Greg Abbott. So Governor Hot Wheels announced that he ordered the Texas State National Guard to monitor a Navy SEAL Green Beret joint training exercise that was taking place in Texas and several other states.
So
Um,
this is back in 2015.
yes.
Got it.
And because they were afraid that President Obama was going to use special forces to put Texas under martial law.
Okay, so that's one of the links we're going to provide. We're going to provide a link to the DOJ memo.
Yeah.
We're going to provide a link to the I don't
I,
know article or the I don't know interview.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then I had one, I don't it's up to people how you feel about USA Today. But the USA Today article does a summary of that memo.
Okay. Now, I also want to say we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the hopefulness. I will say that the one thing that I have seen across the board with some of the crazy stuff we're talking about is that the fringe supporters, aka Republicans who didn't want to vote for Kamala Harris, are falling away from support of the Trump administration. That we are
Yes.
seeing a lot of breaks. The hopefulness is that we're seeing so much pushback, so many court decisions, millions of people are protesting. Um, the 5501 protests are so strong. I think the May 1st protests, there were so many across the country.
They were huge. Some of those were huge.
Some of them were huge, like millions of people. I think I had actually thought that we had hit the 11. One of the things you found, I think you found it and shared with me, was the 3.5%.
I don't I don't know if I found that. I thought
Okay,
that
maybe I shared that with you.
one one of us shared it with the other one.
Found it, and it circled around in this
Yes.
family. So 3.5, the article talked about every regime that tried to run a dictatorship or fascism or whatever was overthrown. A historical precedent is that they were overthrown when 3.5% of the population over a sustained period of time protested in whatever ways made sense. And in the US, 3.5% is like 11.5 million. Oh, so that would make my math earlier wrong, wouldn't it? So it is 2% of the population, not 0.02%. Well, 0.02 is 2%.
Um,
I was talking about
it
how many
Oh yes, I whenever you were saying zero two
0.02, you were
point oh
thinking,
two percent. Oh, I thought. Well, I didn't see the math that you were doing. So I thought you were doing the decimal place move on your own. Because
yeah.
whenever you do it, okay, yeah,
So
whenever you do it, you move the decimal spaces over, and that's the percentage.
that's 2%. So it is
Okay.
2%. So anyway, I'll have to correct that. Like I'll put up a little bling thing.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah. Hey. Yeah. That'd be fun. Like a
Bad
little.
math too.
Actually.
Yeah, Sarah is demonstrably bad at math.
Yeah.
So
I'm the math junkie.
I know. So you just
I
thought that
guess
your
here.
mom knew what she. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that grace that you give me. Back to hopeful things. I hope that one day I can do math. Um, when you and I talk about this craziness, at this point, I mean, I really felt like there was a a question about whether or not we would win. And when I say win, I just mean that the current administration would be harnessed in some way. But my reference to the 3.5%, all the protests, the fact that there's so many court decisions, I really believe that we're starting to see a turning in terms of support, and even
On a
Republicans
global,
on
so
a
far on a global scale.
on a global scale. And so I think things may get hard, but I don't think that they're going to get I don't think they're going to get dictatorship hard.
Yeah, I definitely have I still so I told a friend of mine that I think it was some time ago about like um I guess one of my tinfoil I call them tinfoil hat theories because you don't really have anything to base it on. You're just kind of like looking at things and then you're like, all right, tinfoil hat time. This is what I think is happening. I
Yes.
have no proof. I'm just walking through it in my head, and it kind of seems like maybe this is what we'll do. Um, if if it gets bad enough, I imagine that they would do it before 2 years. But there's a part of my in my head where they would push allowing Trump to be president for 2 years and then invoking the 25th Amendment
For
to
mental.
try it. Yeah, for mental. Well, I mean, we could. The dude is. Did you see the MS-13 interview where he was trying to say
I,
it was
I
it
I'm
was on
telling
it, and then
I'm
he
telling you.
later linked
And
the picture
yeah,
and
I'm telling you, and the interviewer was trying to give him grace and say, let's move on.
let's move on. Let's not talk
And
about that.
and then he pointed out to him, you know, the phone's right there. You could call and tell them to send him back. And and he said, well, my attorney, and he says, but you're the president.
Yeah, I'm so tired of
Yeah,
hearing people try to say, "Oh, Trump." Okay, sorry,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, there's a part of me that thinks that they would try to push him being president for 2 years and then invoke the 25th, kick him out, so that way Vance can become president, so that way Vance could be president potentially for 10 years because
He would have to be
if
reelected.
yeah, he would have to be reelected twice because he
No,
would serve the
I don't,
two
that's I believe
right.
conservatives have shit in their post toasties and they will not be. I think we're going to see a huge shift in the midterms.
Oh
And,
yeah,
and if we're seeing it at this level, I think with the school boards, I think when the midterms come, the Republicans have made this statement themselves behind closed doors, and I'll see if I can find the link to that, that one of the biggest things that they think is going to happen, which is why I think they don't care now because they know they're not going to get reelected.
yeah.
Uh, that they are ruining their chance to stay in power. That they will not be reelected. So
Should not have
let's talk
opened.
about wins for a minute because we've
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
continued. Oh,
well, I shouldn't have opened New York Times just now. We'll talk about that next episode.
yeah, I know. We may have to do midweek show.
Yeah, something just came out 4 minutes ago. I'll just
What
I
is
let's
tell me, just
it's
tell me.
the Proud Boys former leader thanked President Trump because I guess Trump pardoned him. Do you know who Enrique Tarrio is?
Yes.
Yeah. Trump pardoned him
I
and
would love
he
to
brought him
know
to
how the
Mar-a-Lago and
how are the Proud Boys not a gang?
how is the KKK known as terrorist organization?
Okay, moving on. So
Yeah.
Ariella Elm, who is one of our absolute favoritist people,
Yes.
had lost her account, which had made it difficult for me to keep up with the wins. She couldn't log in. She got a new phone, blah, blah, blah. She got back into her account. Woohoo! So these are just some of the wins for this week, and I'm just scanning. This is all the way back to 424. The administration lost in court on withholding funds from sanctuary cities. They lost in court on an executive order requiring proof of citizenship to vote. Lost in court for withholding federal funds from schools that have certain DEI programs. One of the things that I thought was a win, even though it's not on this, was when the administration inadvertently sent a file to the in the New York City congestion pricing case saying, yeah, we're probably going to lose because we really don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
And then Hegseth got fired. That's a win.
Yeah, well, what was it? There was the Hegseth and then there was Waltz. They
Oh
moved
yeah, they.
Waltz to
Oh no, it wasn't
I
Hegseth that got fired. It was Waltz that got fired.
yeah,
But
because
they made him the
I wasn't gonna refute that Hegseth got fired because I still think that's coming. I thought maybe I just missed it,
no. They made
they moved him to the UN
yeah,
ambassador,
yeah,
which I've made several jokes that they basically remote posted him because our relationship with the UN right now is in shambles. So
right.
they were like,
You can't
"All
screw
right,
it up any worse
all
than you.
right, well, we're gonna put you out to pasture, buddy. Go be the UN ambassador."
So here are some other wins, and I'm just super summarizing that the universities led by Harvard, who have been threatened with their funding being taken away, have banded together and said, Come at us, bro.
Let's do
Uh,
it.
the
Yeah.
governor of Maine, who said to Trump in a luncheon, televised luncheon, "I'll see you in court," saw him
They
in
won.
she won.
I saw that this week. I was
That was-
like, oh,
And as I
nice.
recall, the case was one with he was trying to withhold funding from their state.
Yes, that
Uh,
was his. Yeah,
yeah,
that does set precedents for other states as well,
we
which
love
is the good. Which
precedents.
is
You
yeah.
bet. There are a lot of uh, the Biden appointee Judge Jennifer Thurston issued a preliminary injunction against the Border Patrol using stop and arrest tactics in Central and Northern California. See, these are ripple things. I mean, they seem localized, but what happens is, as you say, the lower courts set precedents that the upper courts either uphold or overturn, and the upper courts tend to be upholding all this.
Right, because there's the appeal process. They'll appeal, and then the higher court will maintain the ruling, and then yeah.
Yes, and let's remember the young man Mohsen, I'll never say his name right, but I'm going to try. Mohsen Mahadawi was
Oh
arrested when
yes.
he was going through his freaking citizenship interview, and he was released on bail on April 30th. Um, let's see. Oh, the Decatur Board of Education, they removed a woman for voicing opposition to the removal of DEI. And not only was she released without, I think, any charges, but all of the DEI programs in that school district were reinstated.
Got him.
And I want to remind people, you know what? We need to have a show. I'm going to put this, we need to have a show about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think a lot of people do not know what it means and what it
Right.
includes.
And
And I
I
a
that's
very comprehensive list, and I think it's important. And the reason I want to have this conversation is so that you can talk about how this impacted you specifically.
yes, actually, that's a good point. That's a good
Yes,
thing
let's
to
do that.
mention. And
And,
just
no,
without details, so everybody else knows.
right.
Um, that has a happy, a really
Oh,
a very happy ending. So
fairy tale ending and it's because of one particular woman and her.
yes,
So okay, the SAVE Act, I do not know the current status, but I do know that the Democrats in the Senate have blocked the SAVE Act, which would have really restricted voting, particularly for women, uh and have
Ugh.
said absolutely we are not going to vote for it, so it's dead on arrival. um and so that would be great. And then what else? Oh, the Florida legislative session ended on May the 3rd, which is yesterday, um, without a single anti-LGBTQIA bill being successful.
Yes,
And that's huge. And that is huge. So those are just some wins. I do not have links to them. I If somebody sees the win list and says, I'd like a link for it, I'm going to say, Google it. Because I find all these links and I will just say, I think sometimes we're, we're overachieving. So, and if you don't want to Google the link, you ask us, and by God, I'll find it for you.
yeah,
All right. Other than that, I think we've had a very productive conversation, and the dogs.
yeah. And I'm glad that we stay on topic. Feels like today.
I
These
know.
aren't always the
And
best of
Rosie
paths.
says, I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you. We are. I know we're still recording. We are going to
You want me to
meet.
stop? Are we done?
No, no, no.
Okay.
It's okay because it humanizes us whenever we talk about normal stuff. We are potentially going to be meeting two cats that we might adopt tomorrow.
Oh, you guys are definitely cat people.
Yeah, that's what
I know you
that's.
love dogs. I know you all love dogs, but they never work out.
Yeah, I well
Are they
yeah,
female?
Gabby.
No.
It's a brother and sister.
Make sure you get the boy fixed as soon as possible.
They're already fixed.
Okay, because the marking, I know Elizabeth would probably smother the dog and or cat in their sleep.
Yeah, 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 for
No,
sure.
she wouldn't. I'm just
Um,
kidding. If you Elizabeth wouldn't hurt a fly.
she would, she would. We would just not have a cat anymore.
Yeah, be like, okay, free cat, free cat.
Yeah,
Okay,
but yeah,
so
so
let's next week. Well, I'm excited and send pictures. I would love to see.
yeah, If
Um,
it works out, we're just going to meet them, and they're Maine Coons, which I know big cat, no problem, but we want big fluffy cats, so we're
I
going for big
believe a
fluffy
Maine
cat.
Coon certainly qualifies as a big cat.
It's a big fluffy cat, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. Well, speaking of humanizing us, I must feed the dogs and the spouse. So he did tell me to tell you hi, by the way.
Yeah, good.
All right. Thank you all for watching the show. Thank you for, I hate calling it a show. Thank you for watching this discussion that Aaron and I have with each other. This is basically you are peeking in on our weekly conversation
Yeah,
about
we were having these conversations before we started recording them.
we, we
We just
absolutely
decided
having these
we
conversations.
just
So
decided that if we were going to have these conversations, why not record them?
don't record them for posterity so that we can say we fought the good fight. So we're gonna have
Yeah.
lots of links, lots of ways for you to resist. And next week, Aaron's gonna show you how to use the 5 calls app. And we're gonna talk
Yes.
about can I pick this week what we talk about next time?
Sure.
Let's talk about
Yeah.
DEI.
Yeah, let's do it.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how specifically I want to come up with a list of all the ways that people don't think about it impacting you, and you can talk about your specific situation.
Yeah, and there'll be the one other piece is like the difference between the idea and concept and the companies that practice it, the programs that companies create.
Yes, and absolutely. Oh, God, I can speak to that. And I think
Yeah,
we also can talk about some of the downside crazy stuff that happens that maybe shouldn't.
right.
Okay. Love you.
Love
And
you too.
of course, if y'all are watching, we love you too. And until we get together again, bye for now.